Hello and welcome back to Somewhere in Bookland. I'm Michelle and this is my October wrap-up. I read 3 books in the month of October, and even saying that is kind of pushing it because one was a graphic novel and one was a novella that was 50 pages long. So I read 3 books in the month of October. And I'm disappointed in myself. I just haven't been in the mood to really read, which is like not me. And yes, there have been a lot of different reasons why I haven't been in the mood to read. But 3 books. 3. So sad. None of these books were physical books, so I will not be holding up any pretty covers to show you, but I will put a picture of the cover when I'm talking about the book I read. Now, the first book I read was a library book, and that was Broken Things by Lauren Oliver. Now, this book is about these 3 girls, Summer, Mia, and Bryn, and growing up, they like to pretend like they were part of this book, The Way into Lovelorn. But now, it's only Mia and Bryn left because Summer was brutally murdered in the woods when they were kids. And everybody thinks it was Mia and Bryn. So this book goes back and forth between present day and past day when Mia, Summer, and Bryn were all playing their Lovelorn games, and then the present day is when Mia and Bryn have reunited and are trying to figure out what happened to Summer. Now, I managed to get through this book pretty fast. I read it in one day, and I was unable to put it down. I had guessed who the murderer was pretty early on in the book, and then through the course of reading the book I started second guessing myself, and I was like, no, maybe I was wrong, and I started like following the book along trying to figure out who it was, only to find out that I was correct the first time and shouldn't have second guessed myself. So I guess the book did a good job in the fact that it led me to believe I was wrong in my assumption. There were some parts of this story that were more compelling to read than others, and some parts that I just really wanted to gloss over and skim, but I restrained myself from doing that, but I really, really wanted to. Now, the book started out very compelling and interesting, and I wanted to read it a lot. But then it just kept dragging on and on, I felt like, and I just wanted to know what had happened. I was eventually happy with the way it ended, but that whole middle part, there was a lot I felt that could have been condensed and maybe like shortened up, made a little quicker to read, a little more easily digestible. I found the current day to get a bit tedious and was a lot more interested in the past story, and honestly could have just read the past story straight through and been told who the murderer was in that part and didn't really care much about the current day. That's just me though. Maybe some people felt the opposite, where they didn't care about the past, but I found the past stories more interesting. And quite honestly, even though we know who murdered Summer, I still don't really understand why. But that's just me, maybe. So I'm giving this book a 3.5 stars and rounding it down to a 3 stars on GOODREADS. Because, like I said, well, it was a quick read and I enjoyed the beginning very much, and the middle not so much, and the ending was just okay. that is why it is a 3-star read. Mainly for the beginning and the parts of the stories that were set in the past. The other half, not so much. Now, the next book I read was the novella, and it is The Lost Sisters by Holly Black, and it is number 1.5 in the Folk of the Air, coming in right after The Cruel Prince. Now, this story is kind of following Jude's sister Taryn and her perspective of what happened in The Cruel Prince. It is a letter to Jude telling her why she did what she did. And that's all I'm gonna really say about the content of what's in it, because I don't want to spoil anything that would happen in The Cruel Prince if you haven't read it yet. Now, coming in at 50 pages, this novella was really short and easy to digest, very quick read, and I appreciated it because it really gave you some insight into other things that were going on in The Cruel Prince at the time, and it answered the question of why. Because while reading The Cruel Prince, I was so angry with Taryn, and I just couldn't understand why she would do what she was doing. Now I understand it a little more. I don't necessarily agree with her, but at least I have that reason why answered more clearly. And it did kind of make me feel bad for her more, because what she did I don't think was necessarily her fault. She was being played and manipulated, and yes, that's all I'm gonna say about that. I gave this 4 stars. You know, it is not amazing because it's only 50 pages. It's a letter. It's not super chunky and into detail and everything. So I did give it a 4 stars, and I'm glad that I read it because I wanted to read it before I read The Wicked King, which I still have yet to read. Now, the last book that I read in the month of October is kind of a graphic novel, not really. It's more like little cartoons with sayings on it, and that is Adulthood is a Myth by Sarah Anderson. It is basically little cartoons just talking about adulthood and different things about being an adult, and it was funny. I enjoyed it. I mean, there were so many different little like jokes and comics that I could relate to, and in all honesty, like, adulthood sucks, and I really just enjoyed this book. It was fun. It was a 5-star, and I would recommend it. And that is it. That is all I read in the month of October. So not a lot. I did not read a lot. All of that is stuff I could have read in one day. But, you know, I managed to spread it across 3 separate days. So that left, you know, 28 days where I wasn't reading anything at all. So that sucked. But anyways, click the thumbs up if you like this video, click subscribe if you want to see more of this face in your feed, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.